Page 37, Harp Song. On page 36, they're introducing those chords, the G major chord and the D7 chord for the right hand. At the top of the page, they show them to you. The G chord is, they're showing it here. I mean, G chord, it can be anywhere, wherever, it doesn't matter. But in the notes, in the written music, they're showing it's here. And then the D7 chord, the thumb has to come down here. Remember I talked earlier about the little finger and the thumb have to be able to cover multiple notes so you can spread out when you need to, and this is one of those things. Now, some people have a problem here in that their fingers are real fat and they don't fit in between these black keys. With, you know, there have been professional pianists with the same problem. Anton Rubinstein, you can look him up. He was a pedagogue and a composer and a pianist. His fingers were real fat and he had problems with that because he would slide, because sometimes you pretty much have to, but there's other ways of handling it, and I'll see if I can't point them out as we go through this. So if your fingers are too fat and you can't get that, because the thumb's a short, even when you curl your fingers, the thumb is still a short finger. So you got to move your hand up toward the fall board. The fall board is this thing that covers the keys. When you move your hand up there, when your thumb needs to play a black note. We prefer the hands be out here in the open area as much as possible, but you have to sometimes go up in here to accommodate playing the black keys. But however, if you can't do that, then you have to bring the index finger down and you do a 2, 4, 5 here, and then a 1 if you have to. But if you can, finger it with the thumb. Now at the bottom of the page, they talk about block and broken chords, and this is kind of important. A block chord is any time all the notes in the chord go down at the same time. That's simple. That's just it. That's a block chord. Doesn't matter what the chord is. If they go down at the same time, or at least they're supposed to, it's a block chord. A broken chord is anything else. Because there's all kinds of patterns, and they don't have to be one note at a time. I can play one note and then 2 notes. That's still a broken chord. So they're showing one note at a time, going up. That's a very common pattern. It's not the only one. That's my point yet, but it's a broken chord. And on this song over here on page 37, the harp song, we're playing these chords, broken chords, as broken chords. G chord and the D7 chord, we're doing it in both hands, and that's really, it might look intimidating to look at all these notes flying all over everywhere. All of this is a G chord and a D7 chord. The whole piece is that. Just one note at a time. That's it. See, so once you can break a piece down and you understand the bits and pieces in it, it's not so intimidating. Believe me, it really helps. So that's one of the reasons we go through all this background stuff and give you all these bits and pieces and pictures to put together eventually, so you can look at this and understand what's in it, and it helps to learn it, helps to understand it, it helps to interpret it, it helps. As far as harp song goes, 3/4 time, you see the dynamics MF-P, you know you're going to play it twice. Remember, we've had this before. When they have 2 dynamics like that, the first one is the first time you play it, you do that, and the second dynamic is for the second time you play it. And sure enough, if you look at the bottom, last measure at the very, there's a repeat sign. So you're going to go back and play the whole thing again. So the first time you play it, you're going to be MF, mezzo forte, medium loud, sort of loud, kind of whatever. You'll figure it out. It's a little under loud. So if you know what loud is, you're okay. If you don't know what loud is, go make a guess. And the second time you play it, you're going to play it soft. So you decide. It's all melody, so you're going to bring it all out here. Part of the problem people may have here is balancing the loudness between the hands. course, if you're working on this play the melody louder, this helps that kind of thing. But these things need to sound like one hand played the whole thing. Like so. Not two hands. Or something like that. Make them the same if you can. Listen very carefully on that. It takes some practice. At least for me, it took me a while to get that. It was kind of hard. Now they say it's moderately slow. You'll have to decide what that is. To me, it's sort of slow. I do like that kind of sort of stuff. So it's one. What is sort of slow to you? It's different for different people, so you decide. Then the other thing that I've been trying to avoid and can't is this damper pedal stuff. At the top, they're introducing the damper pedal. So we better talk about that. I am really, really, really picky when it comes to the pedal. I have heard people sit down and play a piano where one guy, I heard him and he pushed the pedal down at the beginning of a piece and he kept it down for the whole piece and didn't lift it up until the piece was over. The pedal was down the whole time. And this was a Chopin ballade. This was a difficult piece of music he was playing. And it was just terrible. I asked him, does that sound right to you? And he says, sure, it's fine. Well, in talking to him a little more, I learned that he'd never had a piano lesson. He didn't know anything about it. He was just based on what he was hearing. And what he didn't realize was he wasn't really hearing it because he wasn't listening. He heard it in his head what he wanted it, and then he played it, and to him they were the same, and they weren't the same. And I'll talk more about this listening in your head versus hearing what's actually happening. We'll talk about that more because that's important. So this damper pedal, I keep getting off. I can't delay it any longer, can I? A piano, depending on electronic, acoustic, whatever kind of piano you have, it may have anywhere from 1 to 4 pedals. Now the four pedal thingy, that's kind of a very rare occurrence. I've never seen a piano with 4 pedals. I've just heard that they exist. I don't even remember what the 4th pedal does now, but okay. The 3 pedals on most pianos, including this one, each have their own purpose, although the middle pedal works different. I don't really want to talk about the middle pedal right now. The left-hand pedal, that has certain things it needs to cover, and I'm picky about that too, so please don't use that pedal if you don't have to. We'll talk about that later. What we do want to talk about is this damper pedal. If you have an electronic piano that only has 1 pedal, it's the damper pedal. That's it. And it's called a damper, it's called other things. Sustaining pedal, loud pedal, damper pedal, smooth pedal, whatever. Legato pedal, I don't care what you call it. A damper is that felt thing on a piano. Can you see my dampers here on this piano? You see these things right here. They rest on the strings and they have felts underneath them, so the felt comes to rest against the string. These things are called dampers. They dampen the sound. They keep the string from vibrating. Or if it's vibrating, you see it come up? No, you can't see that. You can't see it very well in the video, but when I press a key, the damper comes up off the string so the string can vibrate. And then when I release the key, the damper comes down on the string. All acoustic pianos have these. On the vertical pianos, the damper is going this way. On a grand, it goes this way. It doesn't matter. Its purpose is to dampen the string. A damper pedal controls these. That's why it's called a damper pedal. So when I push the pedal down with the foot, these dampers on the strings come up. You can't see it very well. You can just barely see them moving here, all of them, when I do that. And that's their purpose. That it lets the sound continue to go. So if I push a note and the pedal's down and I release the note with the finger, it still sounds. Well, that causes problems. And that's why I'm picky with it. Because it doesn't just let the the note rings continue to sound, it changes the tone. See, if I play a scale, a C major scale without the pedal, it's this way. You listen very carefully to that, you hear what that sounds like. If I play that same scale with the pedal, it sounds this way. If you listen carefully, those are not the same. They sound different. And that's because of all the overtones. When you press a key on a piano and the strings vibrate, the strings on all the other keys, most of them, don't vibrate because the dampers are down. If I push the key down with the pedal, now you hear all these other vibrations going from many of these, not all of them, but many of these other strings, because they'll start to vibrate. It's called sympathetic vibration. They just start to vibrate. The air vibrating makes them vibrate, you know, and so it sounds different. Well, we have to consider that when playing. If you really want to be halfway good at this, you have to think about that. So in these lessons, I talk a lot about the pedal, and I'm picky about when it goes up and down, and I make changes in the book. There's suggestions, of course. You can decide for yourself what you like as far as hearing goes. Now, the symbols used in the music to indicate the pedaling are different based on the publisher. Different publishers will use different symbols. The ones in this book are the ones that are used most often, and I like them. They're pretty good. The problem is they're not accurate, and they're never accurate. The books aren't trying to be accurate. You, as a piano player, are supposed to know the accuracy part of it. They're just giving you a guide as to go ahead and pedal this area, but don't pedal this area type thing. So the indication they showed at the top, it's that line that goes across, and it starts with a vertical line and it ends with a vertical line. So on the first vertical line going down, that's when you push the pedal down. Yeah. You hold it down as long as the line goes across, and then when the line comes up, you lift the pedal up. Yeah. A teacher will tell you more exactly when to push the pedal down and when to lift it up, because the music is not accurate. That's what I'm saying. The music is not accurate. In this piece, for instance, they're showing the line right after the note. And look at the first line there. You have a G in the left hand, and right after that G, you have that thing. You think, well, that's because the finger number's in the way. Could be, but it isn't. Here, they're actually trying to be accurate. The point is, there's different styles of pedaling. Have I lost you yet? They're different technique. Well, technique is push it down. The styles, there's different styles. And one of the styles, actually, the one that's used most often, the one I teach the most, the one that I was taught the most, the one I use the most, is called the lag pedal, overlap pedal, smooth pedal. It's got a lot of different names. The point is, the pedal happens after the note in this style of pedaling. In other styles, the pedal happens with the note, and in some cases, the pedal will happen right before the note. We have to cover those eventually. Right now, that first note, G, I'm going to play the note first, and immediately after I play the note, I'm going to push the pedal down. The idea is I want to get the strings sounding first before I release all these other overtones. I don't want those up immediately. I want those after the fact. So it's here, and then I push it down, and then that turns on all the overtones. And the line goes all the way across the first line, the pedal line. So I'm going to hold it down for the whole mess. At the end of the line, I'm going to lift it up at the end before I go to the next line. So to do the first, well, I'm just going to do the last two measures for you. Going on to the next line, it would be this way. See, so I lift it up, so there's a little bit of silence, and the reason we want the silence is because of the phrasing. Well, I just contradicted myself there. You see, the phrasing in here is every two measures. You want a little silence between it, but every two measures. That's the phrasing they put in here. But when you pedal it this way, you cover up the phrasing. If I pedal it this way, the phrase actually sounds like the whole line is phrased together. And this is another problem with pedaling. We have to consider this when we're pedaling. Do we want to hear the silence between the phrases or not? Is it important or not? Sometimes it's not. You just cover it up. Other times it is. So for this piece, we're going to go ahead and pedal it like they're saying to, and we're going to cover up the phrasing in the middle of the line, but we're going to give a little bit of silence between each line. So the pedal will come up at the end of the line with the hand, when the note comes up, the pedal comes up with it, and then it'll come down right after I play the note in the next line. So there's a little silence there. And at the end of the piece, at the bottom, the pedal comes up with the hand, so they end at the same time. Look at the last line. The pedaling is different there. You're not pedaling the whole line. There's actually a lift up, a break between the phrases is what I call it, silence. So finally, the last line, you can hear the phrases between them. So the little silence between them. So the pedal, you're going to push the pedal down right after you play the F sharp at the beginning of the line. This is the last line. Lift the pedal up with the hand and then push it down right after you play the G in the next measure. So we get some silence. We can hear those phrases. I don't know why they did that different, because you really should do that with all the lines. But that's what they did. So that's what. Then there's notes at the bottom where you can do other things with the different measures. I'll let you play around with that. You don't need my help for that. Now you ask, well, if the pedal is down, why do I have to keep my hand on the key? The pedal's got it. What's the big deal? I can just lift the pedal up after 3 beats and that'll do it. And the answer to that is because it's good technique. If there's sound coming out of the instrument, leave your hands on the instrument. Now there's times when you're showy, and you're showing off and blah-da-da, where that doesn't apply. You can let the pedal do its thing even though the hands are flying around. I don't know. But for the stuff we're doing in this book, keep the hands on the keys for as long as there's sound on them. Now this adds another piece to our list of how to approach a piece of music, because you cover the time signature, you cover the dynamics, you cover the speed, you cover where the melody is, the fingering, you get all that worked out. Well, after you can play it like it is without pedal, you learn to play it first without pedal, because the pedal will mush up sounds and it'll cover up sounds, so you want to hear all of that clearly. So you learn it first without the pedal, so you can hear all these notes clearly, and you put in the phrasing just like it's written. Even though the pedal's going to cover it up, doesn't matter. You put in the phrasing, and then when you get all that learned, then you add the pedal. The pedal comes last. People go to a piece of music and they look at it, and the first thing they do is put their foot on the pedal. They're ready to go, and they just start out pedaling everything. And I want to just knock their foot off that. Don't. Play it first without pedal. I want to hear it without pedal first. So we're going to pretend you've done all that and you practiced it with pedal. So let's play it together slowly with pedal. I'll give us 3 counts. So you're in G position to start, and your foot's on the pedal. 1, ready, go. 3, off.